going to make it.
Hi, we're the Beths, and the song's called Expert in a Dying Field.
History, is it as easy as this? Plausible deniability, I swear I've never heard of it. And I can close the door on us, but the room still exists, and I know you're in it. Hours of phrases I've memorized, thousands of lines on the page, all of my notes in a desolate pile I haven't touched in an age. I can bend the evidence, but I can't bend the pain, and I can't forget it. How does it feel to be an expert in a dying field? And how do you know it's over when you can't let go? You can't let go, you can't stop, can't rewind. Love is learned over time, till you're an expert in a dying field. How does it feel? The city is painted with memory, the water will never run clear. The birds and the bees and the flowers and trees, they know that we've both been here. And I can flee the country for the worst of the year, but I'll come back to it. How does it feel to be an expert in a dying field? And how do you know it's over when you can't let go? You can't let go, you can't stop, can't rewind. Love is learned over time, till you're an expert in a dying field. Can we erase our history? Is it as easy as this? Maybe in other realities, the road never took this twist. And I can close the door on us, but the room still exists. How does it feel
taught me the courage of stars before you left. How light carries on endlessly, even after death, with sureness of breath. You explain the infinite, how rare and beautiful it is to even exist. I couldn't help but ask you to say it all again. I tried to write it down, but I could never find the pen. I'd give anything to hear you say it one more time, that the universe was made just to be seen by my eye. And I couldn't help but ask you to say it all. I couldn't wait one more time. Anything. To hear you say it one more time, that the universe was made just to be seen by my eye. And I couldn't help but ask you to say it all again. I tried to write it down, but I could never find the pen. I'd give anything to hear you say it one more time, that the universe was made just to be seen by my eyes. With shortness of breath, I'll explain the infinite, how rare and beautiful it truly is that we exist.
Oh, once I had it all, but did it all have me? When you're dripping in your privilege, you don't know the difference between what you want and what you need. gets tough just to smile. When every crack is a canyon, every inch feels like a mile. Get back to the place you started from. Oh, once I had it all, or did it all have me? When you're dripping in your privilege, you don't know the difference between what you want and what you need. When nothing is enough, it gets tough just to smile. When every crack is a canyon, every inch feels like a mile. Get back to the place you started from. Get back to childhood. Get back to what's good. Get to the place you started from. Get back. Oh, once I had it all, or did it all have me? When you're dripping in your privilege, you don't know the difference between what you want and what you need. When nothing is enough, it gets tough just to smile. When every crack is a canyon, every inch feels like a mile. Get back to the place to what's good. In the middle of the night, I was on my own till I realized that my house was not a home, just a pile of sticks and stone. Oh, and you told me to get back. Oh, to the place I started from. Oh, once I had it all, but did it all have me? When you're dripping in your privilege, you don't know the difference between what you want and what you need. When nothing is enough, it gets tough just to smile. When every crack is a canyon, every inch feels like a mile. Get back. Can we erase our history?
Check, check, check. Okay, so did that work? Why can I not hear anything? Oh, wait a minute. No, that my audio's up. I'm checking on my phone right now. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it appears that I accidentally had my source muted while the mixer was open. It was really weird. I don't know why I would have done that, but it is what it is. Thanks for that heads up there, Bill, because everything I was spitting out before this time is just not, it's just been lost. But, you know, it's the beginning of the show and whatever this show is. It's freaking the Margaret Glaspie show.
Is it as easy?
Hold on. So, let me see. Yeah, all the stuff I was making comments on all these videos, oh my gosh. Okay, so, for all those invited, let you know. Excuse me. For all those invited from my post. Oh, yeah. For sure, check in and say hello. I don't know what I was going to do. I was just going to like be a free flow. I felt like jumping on and just, I don't know. Just see what happens. What was my intention? Go to my history. All right. And so if you didn't watch Globebusters today, it was really good. I mean, it's all stuff that we've heard before, but still, it's always a good show. So here's the Globebusters link. And I'm going to play this because this Ella Ringrose, besides being absolutely smashingly gorgeous, listen to her just preach beauty and love and hope. So here you go. Ella Ringrose.
Going to share with you how to break free from the matrix in 5 minutes. So if we imagine the matrix right here, okay, every time I draw the earth, it looks like a sad football. We're just gonna roll with it. This does not look like earth. But when we think of this matrix, this entire construct that is on earth is man-made. What do I mean by this? It is running from the ego, the mind. The mind is naturally embedded in fear because when we shut off that right side of our brain, we are essentially diminishing our spirituality. We're diminishing our spiritual gifts, our imagination. And we look in school and society, the minute we're born, we're lodged into our logical side. And our logical side complies with the matrix. The matrix is this false embedded system that is rooted in every agenda on earth right now, right? If we look at anything, there's always a repercussion, right? If you don't do well in the school systems, you'll get in trouble. You will fail. Maybe you won't make money. And then the fear of being homeless, like we go to the scariest resort. It could be if you do something wrong or break the law, you go to jail. every single system, which do have upsides and benefits, there's also this foundation within every human that if we don't comply, we do something wrong, we are in fear. We're constantly in fear because this man-made matrix is not made from the essence of love. It's why I got this heart tattoo behind my neck, because love is who we are at our core. That is our higher self connection. That is who we are. So when we think of this matrix and we think of source consciousness, we think of divine, God, love, the highest divine intelligence. This is the divine intelligence, right? I'm going to write that down because it's a very important word. The divine intelligence that brought you to this video, that made this technology, that literally created your heartbeat, that is literally creating your body. The divine intelligence, and what I see source, I see God, I see the universe, the higher power. It is the glue that holds everything together. It is the glue that holds you and I together, that connects us together, that connects everything. It is holding everything. It is in everything. This is source divine intelligence. What I've noticed with the matrix systems, has completely tried to separate this divine intelligence out, right? If we even look at nature, we're not honoring our cyclical seasons. We're not honoring the cyclical body. We're being put into a 9-to-5 programming matrix conditioning. And so what we notice is the matrix is literally inhabiting and exiting this. So people become very serious. They become very scared. They become very compliant. They become very numbed. And so that's why we are witnessing this very dogmatic world right now, because there is such a deep disconnect from love. There is such a deep disconnect from our soul, our true essence of who we are. And this is, of course, people will be running around dogmatic because, again, it's turned into this fear planet, this fear world where people run in fear. And so the question I always ask people is, are you choosing fear or are you choosing love? So what you can do to exit this matrix, to exit this false programming, which is not of your truth, is to start to connect to your soul. So if you close your eyes with me for a second and you just imagine your higher self within you. Your higher self can be this beautiful, divine, cosmic beam of light, kind of when we look at the sun, this beautiful ball of energy. Sometimes it can overtower us to 7 or 8 feet above us. This is your divine intelligence within you. We all have a divine intelligence compass, technology, a computer within us that is divine, that is guiding you at every moment, that is leading you to your path, to your life. That is the divine intelligence within you, and you hold a part of that. You hold a piece of that. And what has happened is people have forgotten this. People have forgotten their soul. And so, of course, when we forget our true essence, fear is going to override. Because if we do not believe there's anything outside of this physical world we're seeing, the 3D, then we constantly have to be on guard. We constantly have to be in protection. We constantly have to be in fear. So this matrix is embedded in a very linear term. It's very embedded in a logical world. But if we want to escape this fear one and create a new earth of our own, which I'm gonna draw up here, a new earth is welcome to you right now because you are the creatrix of that. This world has so many programs. It's just that majority of humans are living in this false matrix program. But you can choose a new paradigm, which I like to call New Earth. And that is you choosing to allow your soul to start to orchestrate your life and guide you to miracles. What do I mean by this? Because again, if we're in a fear matrix world, we are constantly trying to control. We're constantly trying to perceive the next moment. We are constantly trying to control and create and do all these sort of things. But when we connect into our soul, we trust, we surrender in a higher power, and we allow that divine intelligence that created you, that created me, that created everything to start guiding and leading your life. You are exiting a fear program that is so embedded within every human, and we are erasing that and creating that with sovereignty, with love, with faith. So can you imagine a world where everyone started to listen to that inner guidance of love, that started to listen to that inner attunement, to that divine intelligence? The systems would crumble. So essentially we're looking at a world that is very inverted, it's very backwards, it's very disconnected from our true source. So the more we can connect with our own source, we are creating massive change within our worlds. We are able to create an entirely new world for ourselves in our own embedded matrix. Because remember, in this world, everything is right. Everything you believe is correct. Everyone has their own perception of reality because they are creating their own box, their own paradigm. So if you create your own paradigm of your own world, you are literally able to create whatever it is you desire because you are conforming your own paradigm. But if you connect to soul essence, that paradigm is unlimited. It is infinite possibility.
All right, so I'm just going to piggyback a little bit on what she was saying. because, damn it, I wish I could get it back right now. What can I get back? Oh, so I thought it was so profound when she said that everything in your world, everything in your box, everything in your paradigm that you think is right. It's 100% true for you. You know what I mean? And so then I was thinking about the concept of actualization, and the concept of actualization is that you put yourself into a mental state of almost daydreaming a reality that you want to be expressing or evidencing or existing in. And so let's just take it to a basketball player who wants to improve his 3-point shots, right? And so he's just going to imagine, he's going to make a shot, he's going to make a shot, he's going to make a shot, he's going to make a shot. Let me ask you a question. Is he ever going to miss in his mind? Does anyone who actualizes, visualizes themselves in their field doing what they want to do, do they ever miss? Do they ever throw a brick? No, they don't. They make it 100% of the time. And so what she's saying is absolutely true mentally, right? But in terms of projecting it from the simulation of the mind out into the real world, that's the translation of simulation to realization, I guess, because I mean I'm not a Jedi, and I don't know what her level of Jedi-ness is either. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people that could fault Michael Jordan for his, his, I don't know if you remember this, back in the 80s when he, when the Air Jordan shoes first came out, like there were, allegedly, there were riots and like violent conflicts to own these shoes. And so then you have this megastar Michael Jordan who is just raking in millions upon billions of dollars with no care for the consequences of people who are going to be perhaps violently trying to take those shoes from somebody else because they want a pair of Air Jordans. So I don't really necessarily hold Michael Jordan up as... But anyway, my point in talking about what Ella is describing here is that, the world that you create in your own mind is 100% true to who you are. And I mean, if you don't, and I still would need to listen to this a few more times because I resonate with everything that she's saying, but it becomes an aspect of how does that resonance translate into expression, in terms of who you are, who I am, what am I doing with my life, right? What are you doing with your life? What am I doing with my life? And so I'm just really resonating with her message, but looks like she drew a mushroom and grew some shoulders. What? Looks like she drew a mushroom and grew some shoulders. I don't know what that means. But what's up, Marve? Yeah. Okay. Well, okay.
Ability is infinite potential. It is infinite galaxies. It is the infinite state of you. But if you continue to live in that fear-dominated matrix that we have been brought up to believe is truth and it is reality.
Okay, so that's the other thing too. Then, what she's talking about here in terms of the contrast between fear and love. And so, when you live in a state of fear, you are giving power to the construct. You're giving power to the paradigm that you look out. Well, you might even adopt it in your own mind, right? Because it's like that scene in The Matrix when Trinity is running from the agent and she's running from the police officers who are NPCs. And she gets to the edge of the roof and she jumps and she, leaps like Superman or like Spider-Man, right? And the NPC stops and he doesn't try to jump because he says, that's impossible. That's impossible. So he's governed by fear. And that's the whole thing that, Morpheus was trying to say to Neo before he took the jump was you have to free your mind. Free your mind. And most of us live in a fear-based world where we don't even trust ourselves. We don't even trust our own intuition. And I saw this. I was listening to a video earlier this week. It's probably The Power of You is the YouTube channel. But he said something to the effect like intuition is the best tool for navigation. But we're not taught, like intuition is just a gut feeling. It's just like, but we're not taught to become Jedi masters of our intuition, because intuition is logged into the true matrix, the true simulation that we live in, where we have a connection electrically with frequency and vibration, that connection that we have with the environment and even the people within the other NPCs. I have so many different conversations as an Uber driver, but each of those different persons is a different vibration, a different frequency. And, it's interesting to, like she was talking about, like there's a multitude of universes, so to speak, but that's just semantics. It's not, don't take it literally that there are multiverses out there, right? There's not like a million yous out there right now doing something else that's not you. It's something else. It's like every time you think of something else, you splinter off into another universe, and it's just I don't think that's real. I don't think that that's, an aspect of reality. But at the same time, it does reflect potential, right? Because you can always tweak. What's the word from? Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. There's still time to change the road you're on. There's still time to change the road you're on. Matrix truth tellers. Well, look, man, that's why we all have our own individual capacity. Marve, absolutely, I totally get what you're saying. You have to, I resonate with everything that she's saying, but she's also saying it from a different place than I am. And, it is free advice. She is giving free advice per se. If you wanted to contract with her for her services, I know that she is, available for that. But, what's up, Rob Keen? Yeah, there's divine inspiration as well as the whispers of the demons, but the question becomes, whether or not the demons are your own shadows, right? So whenever, like, you are the only one that you ever hear inside your head. Okay, you don't hear my voice. I don't even hear my own voice. Like, I'm gonna think to myself for a moment. Okay, like I don't hear anything. But at the same time, I freaking hear my thoughts because I think them. But that's like hearing them out loud. If I don't say them, then you don't hear anything. So I have to speak them. But when I think them in my mind, I'm hearing them as if I'm saying them out loud. Does that make any sense whatsoever? But I'm the only one with whom I've ever had a conversation in my head. So who is it that whispers to me to do or not to do? Whether or not the to do is an evil or a good, or I can't remember how I negated it or not, but you get what I'm saying. Like, so the demons, I would say, Bill, are you. You are the only creator that you have to experience. This was one of the things that I came to when I was still a Christian, and I was wrestling through this reality of, okay, why am I not changing? Why am I not changing? Or at least, I think most of us are like just a leaf on a large stretch of the Mississippi. What is inscribed? I hate this heart thing at the side because it messes up. What is inscribed in you at this moment? What is inscribed in you at that moment? Not sure what you mean. I think, okay, are your self conversations? Yeah, I have extremely long. Like, that's why I created the channel Pensamientos de Viejo, the thoughts of an old man, because I have all of these thoughts and they're just in my head, and whatever. Okay, so going back to what I was saying before about Christianity, and I was trying to understand, like, personal development. Maybe I'll get out of this and look for, see you later, Ella, even though you're cute as Smurf. I actually know someone who looks exactly like her, and she's so beautiful. Okay, so what am I going to do right now? I have to find my paper. Okay, so that means I'm going here. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, hold on. I am in the Ubercast. I have to change my account. Okay, I can do that, I think. Let's do... Okay, hold on. Let me move this out of the way. Let me, you know what I'm just going to do? I'm going to go for a look-see, and in the meantime, I'm going to play something for you guys to listen to. How about that? That way I don't just like... how about some soul?
Reads better in Sanskrit than it does. By the way, there's no difference. Different Buddhism, of course, didn't exist till the 16th century. And this video is not about Buddhism or any particular belief system or religion. It's about the substrate of truth and the methodology of insight and liberation and disidentification.
All right, so I just had to go to my other channel. I just had to go to my other channel to find my Google Drive. Come on now, why isn't this? What the crack, man? Are you kidding me? There you go. Okay, there's that. There's that. I guess that's whatever. Okay, whatever. Okay, so these are all of my articles and whatnot that I was writing when I was still a Christian. And a lot of these things I still believe in principle, but it has to do with your, your orientation to paradigms. What was I thinking? Where is this stupid? There it is, Made Alive. Here we go. So this is my whole discussion of my own struggles as a Christian, right? So I don't know what your experience is with Christianity, but in terms of the whole movement back in the 80s, that was around before the 80s, but because I was an 80s kid and growing up as a Christian then, the pop psychology and the self-help, right? All of those things were absolutely no-nos. That was all, that couldn't be taken with a grain of salt in terms of, most Christians go by the maxim that all truth is God's truth. All truth is God's truth. You just don't realize that you're acknowledging this universal truth that's based on this character that you call God. So I don't really understand, and now know, I don't understand why the whole concept of self-help and self-development without a Christian label, I don't see how it's sustainable. It's not real. Because anything a non-Christian can do, anything a Christian can do, a non-Christian can do better. Anything. Because the non-Christian has to do it himself. Whereas the Christian has to depend upon the Spirit of God before I can do anything that's really good. So this is what this whole philosophical approach is from my perspective. So I wrote this paper, and I think that this is I don't think this is the last final draft, because I thought that I titled it Do or Do Not Do. There is no try, right? Do it or shut up. There is no try. So what follows in part is a personal response to many years of wrestling with the Spirit of God in terms of personal holiness. This is what I was going to say. So if you think about, what personal development and self-improvement, that is what a Christian calls sanctification. Sanctification is where you grow into a more mature person who eventually expresses himself with more righteous, more love, joy, peace. So I would say that at this point in my life, I'm the most holy than I've ever been, right? And so that is that I'm able to express love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control, because against such things there is no policy. You can't write a law against love. You can't write a law against self-control. And that is, in a sense, individual to each and every one of us. But my point was to simply talk about the fact that, okay, look, you have to understand that both the Christian and the non-Christian are concerned with personal development. They're both concerned with personal development, personal growth. So the reality is that the non-Christian, like, what are you doing, non-Christian? Like, what's your purpose? Hey, you, what's your purpose in life, right? You should, I think, be able to say, to understand who I am and to express that in the most beneficial way, right? To understand who I am and to express that in the most beneficial way. But at the same time, there's always this understanding that your development from one level to the next is not the end. There's no end. There's no end. You can always be more loving. You can always be more patient. You can always be, you know what I mean? So the thing that maybe I'll just let the paper speak for itself. Do I have to lean on what is inside of you based on the rule? Or do you follow what is inspired by? Yeah, I mean that's really the same idea. That is that in our minds, you know, what am I creating to believe is real? And then what is it that I'm creating? Is it fear-based or is it based in love? Because I really don't think that you can have the existence of fear if you create a world of love. That fear would have to come from without, come outside of the system that you create. And that's, you know, there's more nuance than that, but, you know, that's what this life is for. We should be having wigwam sessions, right? We should be having peace pipe sessions where we just talk about this stuff and pass the pipe. I'm just saying. Okay? All right, so here we go. So what follows in part is a personal response to many years of wrestling with the spirit in terms of my own personal holiness and the traditional doctrine or dogma of regeneration. Okay, that's a very loaded term in Christianity. That is that when you experience regeneration, that is your rebirth, that is your renewal, that is your transition from the old into the new. You have been reborn, born again. And so then if you think about it this way, right? So before you were born again, you hated God. You didn't want anything to do with God. You know, atheist is there is no God, right? However, the way that I phrased it when I was a Christian, because I thought it was more profound this way, but an atheist isn't somebody who says there is no God. An atheist is someone who says no to God. That's what an atheist is. You know, and you can tweak that a little bit for sure. But for the most part, you're simply rejecting a concept. You're rejecting an idea. Because I've never met God. I've never heard God speak to me. You've never heard God speak to you. I listened to some video the other day or whatever, and the guy said, you know, God spoke to me the other day and he told me blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what the fuck? That was you. You were talking to yourself, man. Like, you are God. You and I are our own phenomenal cosmic power in a itty bitty teeny space, you know, itty bitty living space, right? But you are the only God that you'll ever know. Or that policeman is your God because you do what he says. So the only thing that compels you to do anything is you. It's always you. All right. So I realize that that much of what I have to say is subjective, but at the same time, I believe that it is indicative of many Christians' experience, and so it was my experience as well. So in part, this is what this looks like. We are told that the Christian experience of the presence of the Spirit, we are told that the Christian experience of the presence of the Spirit, that's not a very good sentence. See, this is what makes me think that this isn't the final draft. Basically, the concept of this sentence is that we're told that the Christian experience produces certain results, right? So that's what I was trying to say before. Like, before you're a Christian, that's what I was saying before about the atheist thing. Before you were a Christian, you said no to God. No, no thanks. No, 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 no. I don't know. Right? You're antagonistic. You're antithetical. I want to do, like, it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, right? Isn't that the Anton LaVey statement or whatever? So then, how does a person move from an atheistic vantage point to a theistic or Christian? Like, how did you make that transition? What happened to you? Well, in Christianese, God gives you his Spirit, right? Because without God's Spirit, you don't have the fruit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. It's all a facade. It might look like true love. It might look like... So you have both the Christian and the non-Christian, and they both are moving in, like, I want to get better. I understand that I'm a sinner, right? I understand that I do things that are wrong. And it could just be interpersonal stuff, like in terms of, like, not liking to share your time with other people. You know what I mean? It could just be like something, hey, what's going on, John? Well, I should probably study a lot of things, but thanks for stopping by, John. But yeah, I'm sure that would be a really interesting. William James was he an American philosopher, or what was his? I guess it doesn't really matter what his nationality was. But my point is that there is a similarity between, the pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, self-improvement, self-development, personal awareness. Like, all of that is good. I don't think anybody could find any negativity in the woman's episode that I shared before, Ella Ringrose, I think that is Ella Ringrose. Find anything in what she said and say that's negative. That is a low vibration. That's a low frequency. Like, she is not giving. No, you can't find any fault in what she's saying, except as a Christian you would say, well, it doesn't count because she doesn't have the Spirit of God. So then where did she get this concept? Oh, well, that was the Spirit of God. What? Like, you can't have it both ways, peeps. All right. So, let's see. Okay, I'm just going to read the paper. I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze myself, but this is the paper that came up. Anything a pagan can do, a Christian can do, but better. But this is only true because he has the Spirit of God. So they're both doing the same thing. They're both moving towards self-improvement, but the Christian is better because he has God's Spirit. It is a common thought, we can't expect a non-Christian to act like a Christian. You just can't do it. You just can't expect a non-Christian to act like a Christian. It just doesn't. So something has to happen. And I say that that's only partially true. On the one hand, it is true in the sense that a non-Christian will not essentially desire the same thing that a Christian does. That is, what is the chief end of man? The chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. But that's not the atheist's position. The atheist's position, per se, is self-centered. But at the same time, it's almost the same sentiment that Augustine puts forth, allegedly, right? Love God and then do whatever you want. I mean, I think that that's pretty profound. Love God first, right? Love God first and then do whatever you want, because the fruit of that initial expression of love is never going, it's always going to complement that initial expression. But the atheist doesn't need God in the picture. So he just says, love others, right? Make that your highest good, to use whatever expression you have of who you are, where you've come from, where you're going, how long you're going to take to get there, whatever. That becomes your bar. You know, what's your bar for morality? Well, what is your greatest good? What's your greatest good? What can I do for you that would be just this beautiful expression of, you know, benefit, you know? So it is true to one extent that the non-Christian doesn't really desire to glorify God in the same paradigmatic way that a Christian does. Okay, because then you even have soft atheists, right? You're not a hard atheist like Christopher Hitchens. You might be a soft atheist, you know, be like, meh, you know, God could be there, you know, off in the distance or whatever, and he's like this distant voyeur. I really don't understand how he has to do with anything, but you know, so I'm just going to I'm on my own. And really the way that I'm just trying to think through this for anybody who's interested in listening to this in terms of self-development, which, you know, I'm still on that path of doing this. But it's it really is just the realization. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you think that you need God's Spirit to do something that is beyond your inherent, you know, ability. I can't do this unless you help me, God. Okay, take that for granted, that you have to then go to God and petition help. Well, I think that that's a good place to go in terms of being a supplicant, right? Because you're going with a need. You have an acknowledgement. Okay, I acknowledge that I'm not where I should be. I acknowledge that I want to get to that level of being what I should be, and I don't know how to, like, I need your help. Okay, great. So then you petition that source. Well, what then? How do you know how do you know your source is going to like give you what you want? So let's say you went to that source and said, dear source, I want to be as resourceful as you in your sourceness. Like, help me be that. So how long do you wait? Because the only thing that you have to do after that petition is action. Do it. It's always you. It's always you. I just don't know how you can escape that reality. So anyway, just to go on here with, we can't expect non-Christians to think and behave in the same way as a Christian does, right? Because their frame of mind, they don't have the same paradigm. They don't have the same worldview. All right. Is there a reason to war against this spirit? Can you walk his path without using him as a crutch? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing that we were talking about before. Like, who's the he? It's your spirit. It's your path. It's your expression. Where are you? Where do you want to be? What do you have to pare off? What do you have to whittle off? What do you have to remove from your life in order to be a better expression of love? I mean, I'm still like, look, man, I don't have this all down. I'm just talking about, just my own journey. So take that for what it's worth. So yeah, we can't expect two completely different people to approach this, but we have to understand that they are actually the same. That this is my perspective now, because when I wrote this paper, I was much more dichotomistic, like it's like black and white, like you're a pagan and I'm a Christian. I've got the Spirit. Yes, I do. I've got the Spirit. How about you? Like, how do you gauge that? Because Baptists have the Spirit, but they're not Presbyterians. So how does the Spirit of God, who is unity, right? How does the Spirit of God decide, we'll let the Baptists believe what they want. We'll let the Presbyterians, we'll let the Anglicans, we'll let the Eastern Orthodox, you know what I mean? You have this one unifying Spirit and all of these different factions. How does that work? How does that make any sense? How are you given the same Spirit I am? And yet you can say, well, if the one thing where I'm at right now in this whole discussion with flat earth and the Bible, I'm the only voice out there that is trying to call attention to the unnecessary appeal to this book to be flat earth. We don't need it, first of all, but that's not the point either, right? Because it could do what you're saying, and I'm just saying we don't need it, even though it does do that. But I'm not even acknowledging that. I'm saying it doesn't even do what you're saying it's doing. So that's one thing. And then we don't need it. So there's two strikes against making this appeal to the Bible being a flat earth book. But whenever I've brought up this point to Bible thumping flat earthers, they're like, you're not even a Christian. You can't know the truth. If you had the Spirit of God, you just need to go back and study some more, Travis. And I'm thinking, what makes you think that I didn't study before this? That I have to believe what you believe? Because that's the issue, right? How much of what you believe do I have to match with before you think that I've got the Spirit? John says, good question, but you have to admit some individuals have made you feel like they're connected with the Spirit of God in a manner vastly more obvious. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah, can't get around that. Abso-smurfin-lutely. Okay, so let's just keep going here. I haven't read through this paper in such a long time, but in the language of Paul, he is darkened in his understanding. That is the non-believer. The pagan is darkened in his understanding. On the other hand, the nature of the law is such that it demands the same of all men. The law, right? It's just like justice. It's blind. It just has this standard. Do or do not do, right? So do is love your neighbor. Do not do anything that is detrimental to your neighbor's benefit. You see how that goes? It's the same concept, but there's two ways of looking at it. There's a positive and a negative. There's a commission, right? Where you're being committed to doing something that is a positive, but at the same time, you are holding out this concept of omitting. You are going to omit. You are going to pare off. You are going to whittle off. You're going to chisel off those imperfections that don't move you toward the greater good, which is the positive, right? So you have two sides of the of the same coin, if that makes any sense. Why don't I start an investment club? I would have no idea what to do with that. I don't even know what that's not. I don't know. I have no desire to be an investment banker, or if that's even what you're talking about. Unless, of course, you're talking about investing in yourself, because I'm all about that. And that's what this is right now. Whatever. Okay? So the law is unilateral. It demands the same thing of all men. Do or do not do. And this is something with which, apart from God's Spirit, all men... Okay, this is the... let me see what this is. Because this is going to be contrary to most evangelical thinking. Okay. The law is such that it demands the same of all men. Do or do not do. And this is something with which all men are able to comply. Yeah. Okay. So my point is that this standard that you give to people, right? You just say you have an office and there are 20 people, 20 employees in that office, but only one of those employees is a Christian. Everybody else in that office has to deal with the same people, right? They're just 1 out of 20. You're 1 out of 20, but you're the Christian. So then you're praying, dear God, please help me to love Sally. Dear God, please help me to not hate John. Dear God, please help me to be patient with Bill, or whatever it is. I mean, So you have to go to work. But what does the pagan do? How does the pagan prepare themselves or prepare himself for going into that environment if he's interested in developing himself? You know what? I really didn't handle that situation today very well. So before I go to bed, I'm going to think about this situation. There was a situation at work, and there was this conflict, and this is what I did, and this is what she said, and then this is what I did. And then you step back and you try kind of just, look at it, and you think, okay, now how can I do that better next time? How can I do that better next time? And so then the non-believer, the non-Christian, is still doing the same thing that the Christian is doing, except he's just cutting out the middleman. He's just taking ownership of the fact that I'm the only one that's responsible for what I do and how I think in that environment. So what do I need to do for myself? Not to change them, but because that's just the way they are. I mean, I tried to do this with Sally and it didn't work out. The conversation went sideways, or the project discussion went sideways because she thinks that, or I think that, you can only change yourself. You can only change yourself. So that standard is across the board. Everyone has the ability to do that. Success stories are rampant with people who don't give any acknowledgement to God. They don't ask God. They did this themselves. They accomplished these things themselves. They set this goal, they set this standard, they set this bar, and they said, this is where I want to, and then they put themselves on that trajectory, right? That is self-actualization. And they become more loving, more patient, more kind, more generous, more self-controlled, more gentle, right? But there are still those Christians who will continue to say that this is precisely the problem. Non-Christians will not want to do a thing that God desires, right? So this is the whole philosophical conversation that happens in evangelical Christianity. Is like, a pagan, a non-Christian doesn't even want to do what God wants him to do. And yeah, he does. He wants to love his children. He wants to love his wife. He wants to pay his taxes. He wants to go to church. Or I mean, not to go to church. He wants to, comply with the system, right? So I just don't think that it's accurate any longer, right? I mean, I used to live in this world where as a Christian, I would say, my grandparents who were atheists, they didn't need God. They didn't, acknowledge religion even though my grandfather was baptized as a Lutheran back in his, what's the word? Confirmation days back in probably the 40s, right? Maybe the 30s even. But, they never acknowledged their dependence on this source. And yet they were the people that they were. So I'm trying to say, to a certain extent, like, you can't disqualify, and then you have to almost do like this blanket of special pleading. Okay, like, all truth is God's truth. So that is that anything that you say, God already thought of it. So you're just like, it's like the globe model that can't be falsified. Like, we make the model so impossible that you can't falsify it at all. So you just have to shrug your shoulders and go, well, I guess it just works out, So it's just special pleading to then say, oh, all truth is God's truth, right? And so then you can't do anything without the Spirit of God, right? And in order for you to do anything that's good, you have to be born again. You have to have the Spirit. Okay, well, but I don't want the Spirit. I don't need the Spirit. But I'm going to go help that old lady cross the street. That's the Spirit of God helping you. Wait. So then I don't have to be a Christian for God's Spirit. You see what I'm saying right now? Like, all truth is God's truth. All good actions are a reflection of the good character of God's Spirit or whatever. So you don't need to be a Christian to do Christian-y kinds of things. You just told me that. You said, on the one hand, in order for you to do anything that pleases God, you need the Spirit of God. But whenever you do something good, that's the Spirit of God. Like, okay, then I don't have to do your conversion to your religion. If God's Spirit is just this blanket special pleading that anything that I do that is good is only possible because God's Spirit is working in me, I'll take that. Because then I don't have to do any of the other frou-frou, ritualistic stuff that you guys think that you have to do. Right? You just cut out the middleman. So a non-Christian might not think the way a Christian does, but he is able to behave just like a Christian. Okay? Non-Christians might not do, or non-Christians might not desire a thing because it pleases God, but they are able to do that thing regardless. All right, let me look and see what's going on here. A lot of people are full of themselves. Yeah, well, that's all a part of the journey, right? That's all a part of the journey. I mean, even dealing with my oldest son right now, he can repeat a lot of things that are true, but his development still is a long way off, and I just got to let him go. I just got to let him be. Sometimes I step up, sometimes I say some things because, it's like, okay, and I have to think about it sometimes. Like yesterday, I had to think about how I was going to say what I wanted to say. I'm like, okay, I have to say this, but I have to say it in a way. And when I eventually did bring it up, it went well. The way I created, the way I manifested what I was going to say worked out positively. And he was able to hear what I had to say without offering any, not resistance per se, but, healthy sparring, so to speak. You follow that which is inspired in you. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Bill, but what I'm trying to do is you and I are on the same page, but I'm not sure what your affiliation is with, religion per se, if you want to say what it is. But the way that you're expressing your viewpoint now is not a typical evangelical way of thinking about things. Okay, so even though a non-Christian might not think about, oh, I'm going to do this because it glorifies God and it pleases God, he's still able to do that thing. Even though you seem to hate the better than thou Christian. Why hate? I'm not sure. Spiritual but not religious. Okay, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by you seem to hate the better than thou Christian. You mean like somebody who's superior? Yeah. Okay. Why hate the Almighty? But see, I don't understand that part when you said why hate the Almighty. That part was a disconnect for me. Yeah. A sociopath thinks your home is his, right? So there are boundaries. I mean, like, we can't live in a fully anarchistic society because mine is mine and yours is yours, right? If I try to take something from you that's yours, that is going to be expressed in a way that develops conflict between you and me, because you don't necessarily, there's ways of doing it. Like, hey, can I borrow this? Or, hey, like I just had a friend today. He asked me for some money. He said, I'll pay you back in a couple of days when I get paid. I'm like, okay, here you go, right? So that's a verbal contract that, but like, what if he flakes out? If he flakes out, he flakes out, whatever, like what, right? But in that term, it's different than him, like, let's say, for instance, if he was in the house and while my back was turned, he stole something that he's going to hawk because he then needs cash for it. So instead of asking me to help him out, he steals from me. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what a sociopath does. A sociopath doesn't understand that there's boundaries. And we can't really live in to a certain extent, the anarchy aspect is, there are no rulers. Like, you can't tell me what to do with what's mine. You can't say to me, 30% of what you have is mine, right? I'm going to tax you 30% on whatever's yours. Like if you're going to have, a bumper crop of corn or wheat, and I get 30% of that. Like, where do you get the idea that what is mine is yours? So even in, a society where we say that there are no rulers, that is, there are no people who can tell us what to do with what is ours, we still have to live by certain rules that I would say are universally expressed in the pneuma, or in the logos, or whatever you want to call that source or that thing. You know what I mean? Like, each of us is an expression of that thing. Each of us is God in a completely different universe. Like, I am in my own universe right now. You are, Bill, if you're still here, and Marve, and John, if you're still here, listening to the sultry sound of my voice. You guys are all God in your universe. So we are all God. And the way that you express your development and your self-awareness, I can't even say that you're behind me, Like, how can I say that you're behind me? Like, I'm way ahead of you, man. I'm like way ahead of you. Like, I have so much to learn from you. But I don't expect, like, I guess that there's a certain aspect of self-aggrandizement where I think that I have something to offer. Otherwise, why would I be talking right now? I mean, like, I'm completely narcissistic or something, to a certain extent, like, because I think people want to listen to the sultry sound of my voice. Travis is so narcissistic. I would just think that I'm just artistically expressing myself. Shout out to Mary Spender, because she just did a video called Am I a Narcissist? And then the Ella Ringrose, the woman that I started this whole spiritual discussion off with, that clip, and she was talking about how as artists that we create, right? She's talking about you are the creator of your own universe, right? You express, you paint, what's your medium? You know, your oils, your watercolor, your pencil, you know, like, or photographs, photography. Like, what are you, like, that's you. You are God. You are God. And I can sit at your feet and hear you express light and life and love. Right? And then if by chance I'm talking and you want to sit down and listen to what I have to say, then that's what's, you know, that's the ebb and flow, right? All right, so non-Christians might not desire to please God himself, but they still can do the thing that is good regardless, without having to commit 100% to that paradigm, right? I don't have to cross your line. I've got the Spirit. You just told me that even though I don't acknowledge God, whenever I do something good, that's God's Spirit helping me. Well, great, good. You keep your expression over there. If you think you need to do that on a weekly basis, or even a calendar basis, where you've got your spiritual calendar system of, you know, Advent and Epiphany and whatever else, feast days, all of those. If you want to express yourself that way, if you want to be bound to those regiments, to those rituals, have at it. Go, you know? All right, this is especially true if that behavior lies in their favor. So we all do things for self-interest. Everything you do is self-interest motivated. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, right? So even your motivation to love God isn't the highest form. I mean, listen to this, okay? Like, even your motivation to love God is second tier, because your motivation to love God is actually a step underneath the biggest step, which is you want the highest good for yourself. I am going to do this thing for you, for me. Everything we do, even if you think that it is selfless, it's not. But it doesn't mean that you're a narcissist. It doesn't mean that you're a sociopath. That's just who, you know, like who we are as, I don't even know. I mean, whatever, you know. My motivation is always myself. Even when I say that God is the highest good, John Piper, right? Desiring God, that's our highest good. What is the chief end of man? The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. Why? Right? There should be another follow-up question. To what end? To what purpose? For your good. That's the higher good right there. So that not even glorifying God is the highest good. Your benefit from doing that thing is the highest good. But that's where we're at everywhere that we go in the world. Even the pagan does the exact same thing. Everything the pagan does, even if he or she says that she's doing it for the greater good, he's actually, and it's not dishonest. You just might not understand that dynamic. If you don't understand that dynamic, that's fair. You just need to think about it a little while. This is where I'm at. And the way it makes sense to me is everything I do is based off of the foundational premise of me. Whenever I do something for someone else, I get pleasure from that thing. That's the higher good. No one can do something for someone else without any existential experience or expression. Like, you can't just flatline an experience. You can't do something for someone and be completely impassive. It's impossible, as far as I know. I mean, I could sit at your feet and you could tell me how to do it, but as far as I'm, this is where I'm at. Okay, so the non-Christian will always do something that benefits them, regardless of whether or not it's oriented toward God first. They are interested in what lies in their favor. What lies in their favor? Hey, what's up, Scott Level Rum? Okay, you're talking to B flat. I'll let that go. Okay, so if it suits their happiness, non-Christians will do what God says. The conundrum posed by Christian theology in what is called total depravity is very relevant in this discussion. When faced with this doctrine, many non-Christians might say, do you mean that I can't do anything that's good? Can't do anything. I'm incapable of no good thing. And then this is what we've already talked about, but this is the pitfall of the total depravity. Because then there's always this soft pedaling. Oh, no. You can help old ladies cross the street. You can pay your taxes. You can do this, that, and God's Spirit is helping you, because God's Spirit is everywhere. All truth is God's truth. Anytime you do something good, that's God's Spirit helping you. So then I don't need Jesus ever. I don't need that thing. If God's Spirit is everywhere, like the ether, and it's in and, in and what has to say, in whom we live and move and have our being, right? It's just everywhere. It's just... So when non-Christians might hear about, you're completely depraved, without Jesus, without God's Spirit, there's nothing. In fact, even the good that you do is unacceptable to God. You have to have this criteria of repentance, faith, and then regeneration, which are all expressions of the Spirit of God working in you toward, your conversion from a pagan to a Christian, from a pagan to a Christian. But if while I'm a pagan, I can do all things for the good of other people without being a Christian, why do I need to be a Christian? I mean, I could, but what benefit does it have? What benefit is it to me? I like the fact that I don't have to get up on Sundays anymore and go to church. I mean, even though when I was a Christian, I had to go to church, but not that kind of have to. I needed to be there. I wanted to be there. And I wanted to sing, and I wanted to pray, and I wanted to repent, and I wanted to give thanks, and all of those kinds of things, right? But now, in the mindset that I express myself in, I do that everywhere. And I don't have to do it on Sundays, and go there with you. I mean, it's more nuanced than that, but that's basically the other idea. Religion is man's rules. Well, I mean, that, whatever. That's a semantic kind of a thing, because if you look at the technical term, if you're going to break down the etymology of religion, it has to do with being bound by something, being tied to something. So, Bill, what time do you get up in the morning? Are you religious about that? Do you get up at that time every day? Do you make a cup of coffee? What's your religious expression every morning when you get up? That's what religion is. Now, we might call it organized religion, in terms of ecclesiastical expressions of Baptist and Episcopal and Presbyterian, whatever. But make no mistake, I'll take a kick to both shins with pointy boots for this one. Make no mistake, Bill, you are religious. It's just not organized religion. All right? Well, but see, the thing about that, Scott, if I want to talk about that for just a minute, the thing about that is that even that is an interesting nuance of distinctions without qualifications, or qualifications without distinctions. Because the Christian answer, and I'll just say this as if I were still a Christian, which is all truth is God's truth, right? So Scott, your point about pagan expressions is that the Christian or the Roman Catholic interpretation, because remember, Luther and Calvin had their own expressions, Zwingli, all of these guys who were their own episcopal expression, their own expression of leadership in their immediate circles, right? But for the most part, the Roman Catholic Church basically just eviscerated anything pagan. So what they did, in my opinion, this is just the way I'm going to put it, Scott, is they looked at the natural expression of spirituality that the pagans did, if you want to call it Saturnalia or whatever else it might be. But think about this, right? Saturnalia is really only an expression of a particular geographical location. Like, I don't think the North American Indians, the Navajo, were worshiping Saturn per se, or worshiping what you think is like, Freemasonic, I don't know, whatever. Here's my point. What's his point? He just rambles. It's just rambling. So, Scott, it is redeeming the truth that pagans recognize that it's out there, because all truth is God's truth. Don't forget that. All truth is God's truth. So these pagans that are doing these kinds of things, we can give them the rest of the equation. That's part of it, but here's the rest. And now this is Christmas trees, and because one of the things that these Torah loving, Hebrew affirming, Bible believing Christians who put themselves under this paradigm, right? They put these structures, they voluntarily put themselves under another culture's rubrics. They voluntarily say, I'm going to submit to that story. That story is going to be my story, And so they will very often say, the Bible doesn't ever say to celebrate Christmas, or the Bible doesn't ever say to celebrate Jesus' birthday, and this, that, or the other. Okay, that might be true, but you fail to realize that the Bible doesn't have to say something explicitly. So, for instance, in the Old Testament, when God gave the Levitical structures for, let's say, the festival celebrations, right? The celebrations in festivities, in festival, it was to commemorate God's operation within Israel's experience. So God set the standard that whenever I do something for you, celebrate it. When I deliver you from your enemies, or maybe when I spank you because you're being disobedient, you have to realize that those expressions of discipline, or those expressions of commemoration, are for your good. So do these things as rituals for you to structure your life. We all do that. Whether or not you celebrated New Year's, that's religious. Look, we all do this, right? So my point around the barn, if I'm answering, addressing Scott's, most Christians don't even realize that they're celebrating pagan. Okay, what you don't realize is that they've actually picked up a piece of shit, Christians, that is pagan, right? The pagans have this pile of shit celebration, and we're like, we're just going to dust this off and blow the Spirit of God onto what you're doing, and show you how much more beautiful what you're doing is when we put Jesus on top of it, right? So there's just this accumulation of, oh, this is your expression, this is your expression, this is your expression. Those are really our expressions ultimately, because all truth is God's truth. So we're really just reclaiming, repurposing truth. So I would say that even the statement that, oh, you know, most Christians don't even realize that they're pagans down deep because all of those pagan ceremonies, blah, 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 blah. Like you don't even realize that that's not even the point either, because there's a deeper meta-narrative behind that even, right? Whatever that, if that makes any sense. But I do agree with what Scott just says. Yes, we were all figuring out, certain things along the way. And that's what this is about, having this discussion of what you're figuring out and what I'm figuring out. All right. I don't know that I'm going to keep going through this. It was just, maybe I will. I don't know. I don't know. You guys want to say anything or bring up anything for me to talk about? I don't know what time it is. 7:30. You know what I could do is I could just go back to playing. I want to listen to. Since there's new people here, I want you guys to hear Margaret Glaspie. She is absolutely adorbs. Adorbs. I love her. And we might listen to Ella Ringrose again, because she's just that too. So here we go. You're welcome ahead of time. Check this out. Margaret Glaspie, Get Back. What in the chicken? Okay. I'm going to go on mute.
Oh, once I had it all, but did it all have me? When you're dripping in your privilege, you don't know the difference between what you want and what you need. When nothing is enough, it gets tough just to smile. When every crack is a canyon, every inch feels like a mile. Get back.
That was Margaret Glaspie, Get Back. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Did you like the Pixies? You know, I the only thing I knew about the Pixies was Where's My Mind? You know, so I didn't ever listen to any more of their discography, so I have no idea. Don't know who Frank Black is. Don't know who the Breeders are. That's what this makes you think of. Okay. Well, if it's the same style, then, you know, I'm pretty sure that I would enjoy it. Yeah, so like I think that's a pretty good place to wrap. Very similar. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll check out Frank Black. Is it Frank Black and then the Breeders? They're two different bands. Frank Black is a artist, and then the Breeders is a band. Okay, you know what? I just saw that, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna wrap up with this call to arms. Okay, sit that down. If you guys haven't been, where did that go? Oh, there it goes. If you guys haven't been following some of the stuff that I've been talking about with the lunar cycles, I'm going to try to bring that up right now. And oh no. How does that work? Right there. Right there. Something like that. Okay. That right there. That's too. Okay. Down that. Whatever. I was trying to minimize this column here, but oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. All right. Long way around the barn. So this next week is going to be the new moon for January, but that's out of sync with nature. And so if you, I think, look up moon phases, you'll find different expressions of people doing, you know, following moon phases and doing even the analemma of the moon. And they're all going to have different totals. It's not going to match up. Like, I didn't see a real consistent expression of moon phases. Someone was doing a moon phase and they left out 2 or 3 of the phases. But those aren't scientific, right? Those are just people that are, I guess, like me, just making some kind of chart and whatnot. But this one here is the one that I want to focus on as soon as it loads up. Okay, so whatever. Okay, so here it looks like we have a full expression, right? This is 360 degrees of moon phases, okay? So just in your mind's eye, or in your mind, when does a month in nature begin? Like, do you start at full moon, or do you start at waning crescent? You know, like, so here are visual, right? You have a visual line of sight to the moon. All of these expressions of the moon are visual lines of sight that are in the sky during a month. Or, as we have found out, and I'll show you that in a second, that sometimes the moon's phases crosses from November into January. That's not normal. That shouldn't happen. The moon belongs to its own month every single time. It's a month. Like, you don't have, like, December doesn't share moon cycles with January. That's not natural, okay? So here we have these visualizations, and I'll just start at the top at 12 o'clock. So this is the full moon, and then we have right here the waning gibbous, right? Because you've got the majority of the moon still visible, but it's starting to wane. It's waning more, it's waning more. Now we got the crescent. Now this is the waning crescent, right? And so now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So from full moon all the way down till you cannot see, or till you can just barely see the last vestiges of light of the waning crescent, right? And then in this chart, they just show you the waxing crescent, like it just goes from this to this, boop. But it doesn't. It doesn't just go boop. Okay? So let me go back to here. And I think that this is, yeah. Okay, so now this is my introduction to this discussion. Okay, so here at the top, when the last full moon was December 26th. Okay, so now 14 days later is going to be the 9th. So we're at the 7th right now. So this is where the moon, this is what the moon should look like, I suppose, in the sky. Now, right now I've got cloud cover here in Maryland, so I have no idea what the moon looks like. But for the most part, if the full moon was on December 26th, and I'm pretty sure that's what, time and date or sun and moon say, so then you've got 14 days, and then you've got the 9th. Okay? But it's not the 10th when you start to see the waxing crescent. It's not just boop from one day to the next, because the very last vestiges of light on the waning crescent is the 9th. And then when you see the moon again, it's going to be waxing crescent, but that doesn't happen until the 13th. So you tell me what's happening from 10, 11, and 12. There's 3 days betwixt the 9th and the 13th that are unaccounted for, because the 9th is Tuesday, right? Tuesday. This is not Wednesday. You're not going to see the waning crescent on Wednesday. This isn't Tuesday, boop, Wednesday. This is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, boop. Okay? Sometimes there are multiple days of a full moon. Well, I mean, you'd have to, I guess, bring evidence of what you're talking about, because as far as I know, and again, this is all alleged science, right? Most of the time, I think they say that we never, ever really see the full moon ever. We never see it fully lit. But that's when they're getting into their mathematics of, like, the minutia of minutia, right? And that's what they do here in the middle as well when there's no visible moon. Like, you can, like with the naked eye, you can see this. And then you have certain, if you do this search online for Google images or whatnot, you will have people who use filtered telescopes that do see the moon again with less of a crescent, but you can't see that with your naked eye. So all I'm concerned about is with what we can see with the naked eye, because that's what the cultures have seen. Like, 200-300 years ago, they weren't using polarized filters to look at the moon and see, oh, I can still see it, but I have to have this Oculus device to help me. So all of this stuff that we're seeing here is what you can see with your naked eye, and that's what we're concerned with. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You've got 14 on one side and 14 on the other side. That's 28. And then let's just make the full moon one of those other days. So it's 14 and 14 plus 1. So you have 14 days of waxing. You have 14 days of waning. That's 28. And then let's just say one of those days after that is the full moon. and that's its own day. So then that makes it 29. So then you go, oh, look, the lunar month is 28 to 29 days, give or take, because it's so, nebulous and free flowing, and there's, light, and there's a diminishment, and there's, whatever you want to describe of it. There's still 2 days missing, because if you have 14 days of waning and you have 14 days of waxing, that's 28 days. And then if you give the full moon its due, then that's just one more day. That's 29. That still doesn't account for the transition between down here. Because right here, when you have the waxing into the full, it's just waxing full, right? You can see it. But here is the opposite. You can't see the transition until it starts. And you're like, oh, there's the waxing crescent. You understand what I'm saying? So here's what I'm trying to do right now with my Facebook, with even this account on YouTube, the Ubercast, is to try to rally the troops together. I need your help, right? I need you to either confirm or deny or debunk the suggestions that I'm making, in that I'm saying that on Tuesday, the 9th, you should be able to look up in the sky and see the moon for the last time for 3 days. Okay? So you're going to look up into the sky. It's going to be in the daytime. Okay? It's going to be in the daytime because the moon has been diminishing in its light as it gets closer and closer to the sun. But if the sun's out, it's daytime. So the moon is in the daylight for the majority of this phase. And then the closer and closer it gets to the sun is consuming the moon's light as it gets closer to the sun. The moon loses its glory. The sun swallows the moon in its glory. So as the sun catches up to the moon and the moon gets close enough, here you can see it, and then the next day it's there, but it's in the glory of the sun, and all you can see is the sun for 3 days. But the moon is just waiting to get past. It's like a dun 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 dun, and then the moon's just like, oh, please just pass. And then when the sun passes, then the waxing crescent starts. Okay? But that transition, I'm trying to say, is 3 days. So I'm saying that each month should be 31 days, every single one. January is going to be the first one in 2024 that's 31 days. February should be 31 days. March, 31 days. April, 31 days. On and on and on and on. That's just the way I see it. So the new moon is way south, other side of the equator. I'm not interested in necessarily talking about that per se, but, unless you want to be more specific about what importance you think that is. The moon rises first, Travis. That's when you see it, and once the sun is up, no, that's not true. Because tomorrow, if you get out a Skyview app, let's say, for instance, I have the Skyview app, and you say, look for the moon, and then it's going to show you the moon, like, say, 10 o'clock in the morning. The moon in the daytime is going to be right there in the sky. You can see it. So I'm not really sure I understand what you mean. But the moon rises first, right? So it's nighttime. The moon is going to come out probably, I think moonrise last night was at 2 in the morning. What's it going to be today? Let me just look this up real quick. What am I going to... see if it... you know what? Let me do this. I'm going to use the app real quick and see if the app tells me. You know what? Forget it. I'm just going to go to... Yep. I pulled up time and date earlier. I think I still have that tab open. Yep. Okay, here we go. So do a refresh on this. Okay, so this is for January. We have the waning crescent at 14.8. See, that's the thing for me, right? I know that I'm all over the place, but that's what it is. So 14.8 is bullshit. Okay, it's like the average American family has 2.5 kids. No, they don't. You don't ever have half a kid. You don't ever have a quarter. You don't ever have 3/4. No, that the statistical percentages are not reality. Okay, so just forget about that. So let's see when it says the next new moon, it says, is going to be on the 11th. However, that's in the middle of the transition. Okay, so Marve, to address the moon rising first, I've got that the moon is rising tomorrow at 4:45 in the morning. So there's not going to be any moon tonight at all at night. There's no moon. But it's the nighttime. Where's the moon? It's nighttime. You're supposed to be out here, moon. Hey, moon, where are you? Right? The moon's going to show up at 4:45 in the morning. And then it's going to spend the entire day in the sky, getting closer to the sun. Okay? I mean, going up to the 9th. Okay. I think I understand what you're saying to a certain extent. Okay. All right. Yeah, Bill, check you later. Okay. So, wherever you are on this stationary plane, please, if you can, in the next 4 or 5 days, try to confirm. Excuse me, I'm so burpy. Try to confirm my prediction here by at least saying, okay, I saw the moon on the 9th. I can't see it on the 10th. I can't see it on the 11th. And I can't see it for the majority of the 12th. But then right at the very end, at twilight of that day, I'll see the moon in the very setting of the day, but it's going to be right at the end. So the moon has been in the sky the entire time, but because the sun was right there with it, you can't see it in that day. But as the sun then departs that night and goes away and leaves us in the twilight, then you can see, because the sun is taking its light with it away from the sun or away from the moon. At twilight, you can then see, oh, there's the waxing crescent. There's the new moon. This is the new month today. And then you start counting January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It should always be, this is the way every month should start. January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, April 1st, they should all have this crescent. April 2nd, May 2nd, June 2nd, I'm not doing this right. Whatever, I was just trying. So if we go January 1st, February 2nd, March 3rd, April 4th, May 5th, June 6th, July 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? There's 14 days. 14 days of waxing, full moon. 14 days of waning, new moon transition. But that's 14, and 14 is 28, plus the full moon is 29, and then there's 2 days in between. However you want to do this, there are 3 days that we have to account to make this 31. Okay? So that's my prediction, that we should be ruled by the calendar should be ruled by the lunar months, and each month should be 31 days. That's my position. Okay? All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Everybody, thanks so much for checking out and hanging out. Marve, B-flat, John, Scott, and anybody else who is just sitting in the background if you're listening to this. If you've made it this far, listening to the sultry sound of my voice, please hit that Fonzarelli, smash that like, make a comment, and share this content so that we can enjoy the interaction with other like-minded people who appreciate truth and beauty and